Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ryan Eggenberger from Little Flower Strategies, and I'm here with Victor Papp from Little Flower Strategies. And this is the webinar for Catholic parishes and organizations on social media. So,
welcome, everyone. Great to have you guys here this lovely afternoon. And thanks very much for taking the time to join us.
So let's do a little bit of introduction. Victor, do you want to tell folks about Little Flower Strategies?
Sure. So Little Flower Strategies is a relatively new company, just founded this year, kind of rising from the phoenix of an organization that was around serving the Catholic market for a number of years. And that's where I was last with the Maximus Group. I was vice president of marketing there, and prior to that had a pretty lengthy history going back about 15 years in the world of media, public relations, and I met Ryan about a year and a half ago or so, and so as soon as we began this great adventure, I called Ryan and asked him if he'd be interested in coming on board, and so we're very blessed to have him, and it's been an incredible, exciting year. So we've been working primarily with publisher, a couple of film projects, reporting artists, and various parishes, organizations, and even a couple of nonprofits, one of which has created an app. So there's nothing that we haven't worked on so far, and one of the most pressing needs that we found, I think, is the need for a comprehensive, integrated digital media strategy. So today, during this webinar, I'm hopeful that we can provide a little bit of information so that you all can be empowered to be digital media savvy in this new millennium for the new evangelization and just to serve your community needs.
Great. Yeah, so I'm excited to share some of this information. I recently went down to Australia and spoke about this topic with Father Roderick Van Hogen, who's one of the leading priests in social media and new media specifically. And so the fruit of that was that a lot of people are really excited to learn this stuff, but don't really know where to turn. So hopefully today's presentation can shed some light, whether you're a nonprofit or a for-profit or a parish or any other kind of organization. Hopefully this information will be helpful for you. So we're going to go ahead and minimize the video. So see you later, Victor. And we will go ahead and jump into the presentation here.
And I'll still be here audioly for all of you folks who are happy not to see my mug.
Very good. So, and yeah, so here we are, and this is today's agenda. We're going to cover 3 main points and hopefully some more, and we'll have some time for questions as well. But here we go. The first thing we're going to do is talk about your setting up your social media strategy and your policy and your team and everything that goes into that. The second part on today's agenda, we'll be talking about basic strategies for each one of Facebook, Twitter, and video. So whether that's YouTube or Vimeo, we'll talk about those differences and talk about the setup for each one of those and some basic tips and tricks for maximizing success, no matter what your organization is on each of those mediums. And also we'll discuss why we chose those 3 mediums to discuss today. And the third part will be a little bit of a hands-on. I'll be showing you some software out there that's free on how to create basically a meme. And a meme is a picture with words. And we'll talk about why I'm showing you that and how you can use that in your social media strategy and why that's important in your social media strategy. So here we go. We're going to talk about step number 1. We have 3 topics within this first step, and this is kind of as you start forming your social media strategy. We have 3 topics, and I'm going to encourage. Let's first talk about your team. Victor, when we're starting to choose a social media team for your organization, let's pretend you're the communications director of an organization. What kind of qualities or characteristics are we really looking for in a social media team?
Sure. So, for example, the team is probably the most important element of your comprehensive integrated social media strategy. And ideally, you'll want to have 3 people who kind of collaboratively work on your social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, videos, etc. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to hire 3 full-time staffers at such and such a salary per year. It just means you need to have three people all kind of working together who can work as a team and cover each other. If, for example, one person is out for an extended period of time, be that in the social media world a week or even just a couple of days. And then also just to have a couple of fresh sets of eyes looking over your work and that sort of thing. But it's very important to have basic elements that you need in any good hire. So first off, if it's a Catholic organization, because I think there are a couple of folks who are not in the Catholic world on this call and this webinar, you'll want to make sure that they understand the Catholic world and the language and some of the basic elements, and understand that if they don't know something about a particular theological nuance, that they shouldn't necessarily take a step out by themselves, but they should research that before posting it. Understanding the different sources that are out there that are credible and that sort of thing. Beyond that, of course, you're going to want someone who in real life is sociable, who understands that kind of interpersonal interaction. You'll want someone with strong grammar skills, of course, so any English or communications majors are ideal fits for a member of your social media team. And then finally, you'll want potentially folks from different walks of life. So having three 19-year-olds work in the social media maybe isn't the best practice, or maybe it doesn't represent your full audience as best as it could. Having someone who's a little bit older, someone who's maybe in the middle, and someone who's a little bit younger is a great blend. And it's really having that collaborative effort is really helpful, and that's generally the best practice for most major corporations out there. In fact, whenever you're scanning, Twitter profiles, you'll see they'll even name out their individuals who are posting on behalf of the company or the organization. And it just adds an extra level of sophistication, credibility, and professionalism to your digital media presence. And it also just makes for a strong organizational or management structure. So, for example, if you've got one person who kind of oversees the team or is your point of contact between whether it's the CEO or the CFO or the pastor or whomever, that person can be the interface and then delegate certain things to the other two members. But that's generally a strong way to structure the team, having three people who are competent, professional, and then just beyond that, you want to make sure that you understand, even if they're not out front and center, that person is going to be inextricably, interwoven with your organization's public persona. And so what that means is you want to make sure that if, Sally Smith is doing the digital media or doing the Facebook post, that Sally Smith is representing the audience or representing the parish or the organization in her personal Facebook persona, just as if she were representing the parish in her personal Facebook persona. Because often those are two indistinguishable things from the audience perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But Ryan, I don't know if you've got more that you probably want to add to that.
I would say just understanding. I think you covered a lot of it really well. I think the only other thing I would add was to make sure if you do have a team and you've created a team, make sure each team member understands their roles very clearly. So if you're setting up a social media team, maybe have a social media manager and two assistants or something to that regard, or maybe you have three collaborative people who are co-directors. But make sure those roles are understood and what responsibilities are tied to each one of those roles. So
yeah, and for example, you don't have to have three people. It can be two, and it can even be one. It's very flexible and fluid on the one hand, and it just really it needs to be structured so that it meets your needs. But understanding the roles is a critical component, and just being very clear and making sure that it's planned out and established in some kind of official capacity is always the best way to go.
Exactly. So with that in mind, the next part of getting set up with your social media is setting up your social media policy. Now, I encourage our clients to write down their social media policy, and the policy would include, let's say if you're a diocese, the policy would include understanding what's appropriate for parishes in your diocese to use on your behalf in terms of social media. This is also talking about if you're an organization, how do you handle communicate? How does your social media team handle communicating with minors online? What is your policy there? Things like this, but having it written down, having clear guidelines, expectations. Your social media team, again, you know, with their personal accounts, are they allowed to tell people on their personal accounts that they're the voice behind your organization or not? Having all these things kind of mapped out is really important. We can help you, of course, come up with a social media policy and develop that if you need assistance with that. Victor, anything else on that?
Just you need to establish a firm and a clear policy on interaction. So what inquiries or responses, merit your social media team responding directly, or where does it need to get run up the ladder a little bit if it's a more sophisticated or a more delicate matter that gets raised on social media. So the best way to confront a crisis is to completely avoid it. And if you've got a clear policy that's established and you've got a clear understanding between what your team is allowed and not allowed to do, that makes for a very strong presence, digital presence, and it's also one that avoids any potential conflicts or problems down the road.
A good social media policy also would be a great add-on to employee manuals. So let's say you're an organization and you have 200 employees. If you have expectations for how those employees behave on social media, because again, in a way, they might represent your company in the public eye, especially to their friends and networks, you might have very clear expectations that you desire for each, for your public persona of your organization. So having a policy that might be an addendum to the employee manual or guide that needs to be signed occasionally, that would probably be a wise idea. So if there's anything else on that, Victor, I think we'll move on.
Yeah, let's move on. We can always revisit that. I'm sure there'll be a number of questions on policy and team members and everything towards the end.
And absolutely. So if anyone has any questions, gotten a couple already, go ahead and type in the question there on the box on the right, and we'll try to get to some of those questions as the presentation proceeds. The last part before we jump into actual strategies for some of these social media networks will be just talking about your own strategy, writing down your strategy. I think this is huge, especially if you're a parish and maybe the pastor is a little uneasy about navigating some of these waters. Writing down not only your policy but your strategy. So what tools will you use? What social media networks are you going to be opening? How will you be handling some interaction? Kind of presenting all of this information in a succinct way and that's written down, that's clear to your pastor, for example, would be a really wise idea. Also, having something written down that people can review periodically for if you're a social media team is always a good exercise, so that you're not kind of navigating the ship in the dark in a way. So just the practice of writing down your strategy for your organization, I can't encourage that enough.
And then also mapping out what your content is going to look like over the course of not just a week, not just a month, but even the year. Synchronizing the substance of your message, whether it's embarking on a 3-year capital campaign, whether it's merging 2 parish communities into a collaborative, whether it's opening a new parish, whether it's constructing some major undertaking. You want to really sit down at the onset and talk to your pastor or talk to the CEO and say, okay, what's our 1 to 3 to 5 year vision? Not so that you have to map out 5 years worth of Facebook posts, but just so you have a sense on the type of messaging that your organization is going to put forward. Because at the end of the day, your strategy, again, is going to be anchored in content. And so what a number of organizations and nonprofits and other folks come into where they find a challenge is they spend all their time and effort figuring out the how. How do I get on Facebook? Who's going to do it? And how do I make it work? And so once they do that, after a couple of days, they're really searching for content, and it really becomes a source of frustration and anxiety when they don't have an idea of what they're going to post. Now, we're never going to know exactly what we're going to post all the time or week in, week out. But if we've got an anchoring vision or guiding principles, then that will make the post a lot easier, not only to create, but also to have come to life in an organic manner. And what I mean by that is they'll have a greater tendency to be shared. People will talk about them more. They'll make more sense. They won't just seem random. The worst mistake that an organization can make is to kind of set out with a particular mission and then run out of things to say and start borrowing from another organization that runs counter to its mission. So mapping out what the content in a general, broad-based philosophical sense is going to be will help anchor your strategy and make it much more manageable over the course of the year and 5 years.
Excellent. And I think that will lead us right into talking about planning content and best practices. That'll lead us to the second part of the presentation, and that is talking about specific strategies for Facebook, Twitter, video, and other social media. So the first one, before we jump into that, let's just talk about for a minute why we chose Facebook and Twitter and video. There are new social media networks and platforms and companies being opened every day, but by far still the most popular in the United States and other English-speaking countries is Facebook, Twitter, and up and coming for sure is video content. Just so much video content being made every minute. So that's why we chose these ones for this presentation. Certainly there are other social media networks that are worth looking into for sure, and they each have their own, but we'll kind of talk about that in a few minutes. So let's zoom in here on Facebook. Really want to just talk about three things under Facebook: setting up your page, developing a strategy, and getting likes and followers, which is what everyone wants to know how to get. So in terms of your page setup on Facebook, the first thing you're going to want to do is come up with a smart username. A username, for folks who don't know, is the tag that comes after the facebook.com/, and that's kind of the piece that you market to your parishioners or to your clientele for people to find you easily. So for example, Little Flower Strategies, we are facebook.com/Little Flower Strategies. Little Flower Strategies is our username on Facebook. A lot of organizations I come to, they have some obscure username, and that's because they set up Facebook maybe a year ago, or they didn't even know a username existed, and so they ended up with this really obscure combination of letters and numbers, and that's really difficult to market, and it's very difficult to find. It's not very good for SEO. So you want to make sure your username is congruent. And I encourage people to make a username that makes sense, and perhaps choose a username that you can use cross-platform. So both Twitter and YouTube also use this concept of username, and Instagram as well, that you go to instagram.com/whatever. You can, if you plan this out well and smart, you can make sure that usernames are consistent across all platforms so that it's easy to market. Victor, do you have anything to say on that?
No, it should just be readily identifiable. The shorter the better. Whenever you're coming up with a name for anything, and whatever philosophy that you would use to devise a name, it should be the same thing with Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or any of these. But that's about it. It's also about professionalism and your image. So it's just much more than even SEO, but putting your best foot forward for donors, new constituents, new congregants, any new audience or member or subscriber who you're looking for. You want to appear to have your, everything really starting off with in the best way possible, and that starts with the username.
And something to say about usernames as well is Facebook doesn't allow you to change them once they've been made, and you can't actually, for your business page on Facebook as well, you cannot change the name of your page once you have surpassed 200 likes or followers. So that's something to keep in mind as well. You can experiment a little bit if you want, up to about 200 follows, but once you get that, it's sealed, it's done, and you're kind of stuck with it if you don't like it. Let's move on to the next one is header image. A header image, if you're looking at a Facebook page, I'm sure everybody, a lot of people know this, but certainly not everyone does. If you're looking at a Facebook page, the image at the top of the page is called your header image. And header images it's really interesting because so many organizations don't have a header image, and it just really hurts the brand. A header image is a great opportunity to showcase your creativity, showcase something that's going on, and to really market your brand. Header images are 851 pixels by 315 pixels. It's 851 by 315. Header images can be uploaded photos. They could be uploaded graphics that you have made in maybe Photoshop or some other software, or some sort of combination of both. But it's really important. There's nothing worse, I think, that when you go to a page and they don't have a header image. I think it looks amateur. One more thing about header images is if you upload a photo to the header image, you want to make sure that it's that it fits, which is why I've told you the size. A lot of times photos will turn out grainy if they're not done well, or they'll cut out a significant part of the photo, and it just really doesn't look professional. So you really want to, it's the first thing that people generally see when they land on your page. So first impressions are everything generally. So you want to make sure that your header image conveys your organization and your brand well and prominent in a very prominent place right there.
Yeah, haste makes waste too. I mean, you want to make sure that whenever you begin crafting the Facebook page and you're putting in the header image, you want to make sure that you really take your time and get it right. Because the other thing that speaks to the professionalism is if you follow along the post and you see 10 uploads of the same picture. So, spend a little bit of time, have the picture professionally created to make sure that it's a high resolution image. It doesn't cost a lot to have a professional graphic designer do it, but it's a smart investment. And it really makes all the difference.
Depending on your organization as well, if you're a parish, for example, you might change your header image from time to time based on the liturgical season, for example, or based on events that are going on. So some organizations choose to have consistently always the same header image, and that's because they're trying to convey a certain consistent message. But other organizations, again, like maybe parishes, don't necessarily have to do that. I've actually seen non-Catholic churches as well change their header image based on the series that they're doing for the month, the preaching series, for example. So get creative with those, but as Victor said, haste makes waste. Make sure that it's quality, that it's that you spend a good time on it or invest a little bit of money into it. The next part, I want to talk about tabs. Tabs are the 4 spaces. I think you get 8. You get 8 spaces under your header image on your Facebook page. And what I'm talking about, they're on the right-hand side under the header image, under the header banner. And these tabs can they will take you to different websites, or they will take you to different content within or outside of Facebook. So you fill the tabs with apps. You can search for apps in the search bar that's at the top of Facebook, and they have apps for just about anything. So you can install a Twitter app. If your organization has a Twitter, you can install Twitter app. It will automatically, they click on it, and it'll automatically take them to your Twitter page. If you have Constant Contact, you can actually search in the top, Constant Contact, install the app, and it will install an app in the tab. And you can have people actually sign up for your newsletter from right within Facebook. They have donate tabs, so you can donate to your organization right through Facebook, or you can use a redirect tab, and that can redirect folks to wherever you want. So it can go to your donate page back on your website, or it can go to a completely different page, or you can have it linked to your YouTube page. Whatever you want. Like I said, there are apps for just about anything, and so you can fill those tabs. This is part of your strategy. Those four spaces are what people see first when they land on your your Facebook page. So you want to, they're calls to action, they're opportunities for your organization to drive traffic to wherever you want folks to go. The last part of your page setup would be the administrators. And again, this gets back to your policy. Your Facebook page on your organization should not be controlled by just one person. Multiple people, 2, 3, 4, even if not everyone is necessarily involved in updating your page every once in a while. They're not in control at all of your social media. You want to make sure that multiple people, trusted people within the organization, have access to the page should something go wrong or someone break the policy or whatever. So it's really just an extra layer of protection in that regard.
Yeah, the other thing is you never want, someone to get sick and who knows what the password is, and those really rudimentary types of challenges that can arise. So it's very important to make sure that you've got a couple people there. And it also, from the other perspective, builds a sense of depth to the organization. When people see that there are 2 or 3, they get an idea of who the community is. And that can be really powerful for your audience.
Very good. So the next part, section 2 of Facebook here, is we're going to talk about developing a strategy. And Victor kind of touched on this earlier, not just understanding what content you want to push out this week, but you really want to plan for the next 6 months. What is, the next year, the next 5 years, kind of get the sense of where you're going, so you can create a plan to get there instead of just navigating in the night, like I said before. So sit down with your team and kind of come up with a plan. Part of your posting plan would be things like, what times daily do you post? What types of posts are you going to post? So, for example, the types of posts that you can post on Facebook would be a YouTube video, a status update, a picture, links to other articles, or links to other pages. Each of those has a certain effectiveness. Pictures and videos by far get the most interaction. Let's talk about interaction real quick before we get too far of ourselves. When you're on Facebook, you really are gearing for interaction. You want people to interact with your content. By people interacting with your content, they get familiar. You build trust with your followers and people who are fans. But when people interact with your content, their networks and friends also see that content. So the more interaction you can generate on your page, the farther your reach. And that's what Facebook calls this interaction, your reach. So each piece of content you share will get a different amount of reach. So if you post a post and if 2 people like it, it's not going to get a lot of reach. So it's one concept that people don't necessarily understand is if you have 2,000 followers on Facebook, not everyone is going to see every piece of content that you post. So just a small percentage does. Facebook has this algorithm, and they will dial forward or back the amount of organic reach you get on your content based on the average amount of interaction that you see on your page. If a lot of people start interacting with your content, then they'll dial it up a little bit and show more people your content. Other factors include the times that you post, the frequency of you post. If you go 3 or 4 days without posting something, your organic reach as a page will just kind of naturally dwindle. So you won't be able to reach, or not as many people will be able to see your content. So that's something to think about when you're deciding what types of posts and how frequently to post, and the times of the day to post. And this is all part of your strategy. So I recommend people do a few things for this. If you're just getting started, remember that you want to have you want to post frequently and interact. That's the 2 ways to really, if you have no budget, that's the best ways to start gaining a reach relatively quickly. So I recommend, if you are limited in time, post twice a day. Facebook has a feature that you can pre-schedule posts in the future. So I always recommend sitting down at the beginning of the week and posting a morning post by pre-scheduling the morning post for your week. You can kind of guess. You should be able to know what's coming down the pipeline for your organization or for your parish in terms of communications. So you can pre-schedule your morning post, and then that way, if you you pre-schedule your morning post, and then throughout the week, you or whoever else would post something in the afternoon that's maybe more relevant to the day or to your strategy. The benefit of pre-scheduling your posts is that if, let's say, you pre-schedule your posts on a Monday, and on Thursday you just get swamped in the morning and you're unable to post. Well, luckily for you, you've pre-scheduled the post in the morning, so even if you can't post later in the afternoon, your page still had content for that day, which is really important. Again, I was talking about the reach and the organic reach. You want Facebook to keep favoring your page in that regard. Victor, does that make sense?
And try varying. Yeah, no, that's perfect. And I was just going to jump in and say varying the times at which point you post. So in other words, if you've got scheduled posts for, let's say, 8:30 in the morning, try a subsequent week posting at maybe 9:30 in the morning. And so what you want to do is you want to have an organic or a natural feel, because that will accomplish a couple of things. First off, there are folks who routinely check their Facebook pages at certain times, and you don't want to just carve out a whole section of people who might otherwise not get a chance to see your post. So just keeping it kind of fresh and different in that sense just helps the overall feel. It helps the overall look. It demonstrates that that there's some real life around there, and I think that's really in terms of the algorithm with Facebook, they want to generate a product that is enjoyable and entertaining for the end user, and so that's their goal with all of this. And so what they want to do is they want to make sure that people are putting out their very best, and they gauge that by the interaction. So as Ryan mentioned, don't be afraid to go out and interact with people when you're first getting started, but make sure that you just follow your policy and that you're interacting in an appropriate fashion, savvy fashion for your organization, your parish.
Exactly. So let's talk about getting likes and followers in general. So we talked about good content, interactive content that people want to engage with. That's a great way to get likes and new follows, because like we said, if Joe likes and shares your video, if he's an active Facebook user, then he probably has a lot of reach himself as a personal user. And so a lot of his networks and friends will see that video. It's likely that you will get some new followers and likes from Joe's network. I want to have Victor talk about promoted posts in a minute if you have a budget. Let's pretend you don't have a budget at all. Maybe you're a nonprofit, you're just getting started, or you're a parish. If you're a smaller organization, or you're just launching your Facebook page, or you're looking for ways to get new likes, you can certainly advertise in print media. If you have a bulletin and you can get something in there, kind of play it up that you have a new Facebook page. Contact your diocese if you're a parish, and maybe there's not a lot of parishes yet in your diocese who are on Facebook. That might be kind of a novel thing still. Contact your diocese, see what kind of promotion they can do for you. And certainly there's one aspect. You can use your page as like a person. This is one way I think that people forget about. So once you log into your Facebook page and you're looking at it, you can go to the top where it says page or edit page and click that and scroll down. It says use Facebook as, and you click that, and suddenly everything personal about you disappears and you're suddenly the Facebook page. You can go now as the page and like other pages, and in fact you can like other status updates of those pages. So the benefit of that is twofold. One, the pages themselves, those people will see you and they might be likely to friend you back and share your content, which again would expose your content to all of their networks. But secondly too, if I'm looking at, let's say I'm looking at Our Lady of Good Counsel, a status update from them, and I see that the Archdiocese of Detroit has liked their status update, that's pretty cool. I might want to follow the Archdiocese of Detroit. So I'll click on the Archdiocese of Detroit just because the Archdiocese of Detroit liked a status update of Our Lady of Good Counsel. Victor, does that make sense too?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Good.
I mean, as people see what other people are doing on Facebook, and they are more likely to get involved, and so that really helps build up your likes and followers.
Right.
The other thing to keep in mind is that it's very challenging to build up that audience at first, and so if you're just starting your Facebook page and you're just posting content in a vacuum, you won't get very many likes and followers. So what you've really got to do is a couple of things. And I don't know, Ryan, if you want me to jump into kind of the boosting at this point.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's something that's really worthwhile in terms of putting in terms of building your audience. So two things that I just really want to cover. In terms of promoting your Facebook page in your bulletin, you want to make sure that these days everyone has a Facebook page. So it's not enough to just say, hey, check us out on Facebook or like us on Facebook. You've got to give people a reason in whatever other medium in which you're communicating, whether it's an announcement after Mass, whether it's a radio ad, whether it's an advertisement in a bulletin or in a local newspaper or something like that. You've got to offer people content via the Facebook page. So, for example, if I were the principal of a parochial school or a pastor or whomever, I might announce that we'll be posting our snow announcements, for example, of school cancellations or anything like that via Facebook, in addition to everywhere else where we're announcing them. Now, so for a young parent, that person might be really intrigued or might be a very easy vehicle for them to find out about a school cancellation, and so that will draw them to the Facebook page. So that's one kind of added tactic that you can use to get additional likes and followers. And the second is the tried and true method, I think, of boosting posts. And so historically, Facebook offered advertisements, which were on the right-hand side of the of the page, and those are still the industry argues that those are still a good use of dollars and that they still draw greater audiences and greater likes. But what we found at Little Flower Strategies that works especially well for our clients, regardless of where they are in terms of their audience building, is the boosted post. And it really has the power to get into audiences beyond any of the organic reach that you naturally have, very efficiently, very cost effectively. And so basically for a budget as little as $5 to as much as I think $50 when you're first starting off, and the budget parameters grow as the number of likes you obtain grow, and you're allowed to basically boost a post, put the $5 toward it, you can see how it performs, and you can pause that promotion at any point, which is great if you're minding the dollars, if you need to make a sudden turn, if you decide that you're doing a massive advertising campaign and you want to dial back on this medium and amplify that medium, depending on what your analytics are. A couple things to keep in mind is that you cannot boost any posts until you've reached at least 100 followers. And so what Facebook is trying to ensure that you don't just purchase your audience outright. You need to have a little bit of a base. You need to draw up the base or draw an audience, attract an audience organically. But those are incredibly effective means to increase your likes and followers. The other thing to keep in mind with boosted posts is that if you've got a certain percentage of text in your graphic or your video or your post, you cannot boost that post. But ways that they can be used effectively, just sending folks to the parish website or just sending folks to your nonprofit's crowdfunding campaign. Things of that nature are really effective, and they draw people in for a very, very modest budget. And the best thing about it is you get to keep all those people who like and follow you based on that $1 or $5 or whatever it is, and then the audience down the road that you have access to is always greater and greater.
Excellent. Very good. So a good example for a parish, and we have a lot of parishes here, not all parishes, but some, is Our Lady of Good Counsel. It's our clients at facebook.com, OLGC Plymouth. You can check out some of the stuff that they're doing there. So, of course, the the summary here for Facebook is to test everything. If you're just kind of navigating, test it out. Use your analytics. At the top there of your Facebook page is something called your analytics, which kind of shows you the statistics and graphs of, what time most of your Facebook followers are online, are on Facebook, what kind of content they interact with the most. And so use that in your strategy to really communicate your campaign or whatever you're doing. And of course, if you need help, just ask. We're here at Little Flower Strategies to help you. Let's move on. Unless, Victor, you have anything else to say about Facebook, I think we'll move on to Twitter.
No, it's good. We have a lot of content to cover, so we're going to try and move along for you guys.
I hear you. All right, so Twitter. Let's jump into Twitter. There's 3 aspects I want to talk about Twitter. The first one is different types of Twitter accounts. So when you open a Twitter account, or when you're on Twitter, you'll notice organizations kind of use their Twitter for different purposes. I've kind of broadly categorized them into broadcast accounts, customer service accounts, or connection accounts, or maybe you can have some sort of combination of all 3. A broadcast account, for example, would be some if you have content and you're broadcasting. So if you're an organization and you have events going on and you are teaching something, or something of this nature, you basically you have a message to tell the world and you're using Twitter to do that. That's one way to use Twitter. Another way to use Twitter is customer service. So some of the best one of the best industries that does this, I think, is the airline industry. So if you go and look at Virgin Australia or Virgin America or Southwest Airlines and Delta, or JetBlue, they all use Twitter in this phenomenal way. Whenever I'm flying or something, I post about it, and they always tweet right within 5 minutes. They tweet back to you, and it's really cool. It kind of creates a personal touch with the organization or whatever. And they also handle a lot of their, it's a quick way to get out the word about if their website is down, or if flights are canceled, or there's a whatever. They're able to communicate real quickly using Twitter. And of course, the third way to use Twitter, and one of the most powerful ways, is to connect with people individually. So if you're an organization and people really love that personal connection to organizations these days. So you can use Twitter to do that. So let's talk about broadcasting, customer service, connections. Let's talk about ways to connect on Twitter, using Twitter. If you're an organization and you really are geographically, you really rely heavily on your geographic location for operations. Maybe you're a local nonprofit, something like that. You can search Twitter users by the location of where they're tweeting from. So if you Google Twitter Advanced Search, it'll pull up this tool, and you can type in "find all tweets within 15 miles of this zip code." And suddenly it'll pull up, and you'll see all of these tweets from that location, and you can start interacting as the organization with some of these people. So if you're an organization, let's say I don't want to call any specific organization out. So let's say you're an organization that I don't know, you sell plants or something. So I'm just using this arbitrary example. You sell plants, and you want to interact with people so they're aware. One of the coolest things you can do is to help people on Twitter. Give them some service that has nothing to do with plants even, and they'll remember you and they'll think of you. So let's say you search this location and someone's looking for an oil change, and they tweet, where's the best place to get an oil change today? If you do 2 minutes of research, you can probably find one close to where they tweeted from and just tweet to them and say, hey, there's a great deal here going on. They'll probably tweet you back and they'll remember, and maybe the next time they want to buy a plant, they'll come find you. For the sake of time, I'm just going to move on. I think you get the point. You can search people's biographies. They're under every Twitter profile is like a short bio, and sometimes people fill them out, other times they don't. But if they do, everything in there is searchable, so you can find people by interest. You can find people by location again. Anything people write about in their bio, you can find them by. So you can do advanced bio search there. Another way to connect with people or to get followers, and I think that's the last part here. One of the best ways to do that, you can search for a term. Let's say you're Catholic. You can type in the word Catholic, and you can start favoriting people's tweets, and people hopefully will notice you that way. And they'll notice if they say, I love Pope Francis, #Catholic, you find it, you favorite it as some sort of Catholic nonprofit or the parish, maybe they would follow you or, interact with you that way, which would be good for you. So that's that. Let's talk about getting the most out of Twitter. Again, this is just a quick review. Make a plan. Don't wander in the dark. If you're going to interact with people and find oil change places, that should be part of your strategy. That should be written down somewhere. That's kind of part of your daily expectations or your weekly or monthly expectations. Be consistent with Twitter, especially in your voice, and make sure you're using it properly, proper grammar. And don't just broadcast your Facebook posts. A lot of organizations have the tendency to link their Twitter to their Facebook so that every time they update Facebook, it automatically goes to Twitter. Doing that's not a bad thing, but only doing that is a bad thing. It doesn't look professional. It's not interactive. It's kind of, I don't know. It's not very professional. So,
lazy and amateurish.
Yeah, exactly. It shows laziness, amateurish, and it shows exactly that you're not really into caring about the person on Twitter. Victor, do you have anything else to say about that?
Yeah, the thing to keep in mind is that Twitter while it's very similar to Facebook, it's a completely different medium. So you've got, 1 billion plus people on Facebook. You've got, I don't know, last I saw between like 10 and 20% of the U.S. population on Twitter. So it's a much more defined audience. And so with that, it's a much more defined outlet for you to either broadcast or do whatever it is that you're going to do. Just remember the proper protocols. And if you're curious about the protocols, feel free to contact us. But just general, if someone asks, if somebody mentions you in a tweet, it's typically favorable or common courtesy protocol or what have you to retweet them. If you're looking for help with let's say like a capital campaign or any kind of effort or initiative, I mean, why not put a please retweet or please RT at the end? I mean, typically if you ask for people to help you out, it's much more effective than just kind of doing it out there. And lastly, just get to understand the medium by reading some of the tweets. Take some time to familiarize yourself with what your audience is communicating, how they're communicating it before you just jump in and put out 10 tweets in a day. So all of that will combine to make your overall digital presence more professional, more comprehensive, more integrated, and ultimately more effective.
Very good. So just for the sake of time, we're going to kick it up a little bit. We're going to go and talk about video now. Video is huge right now. It's a huge industry. YouTube is certainly one of the options for video. So a lot of organizations and people want to use video because it's highly interactive content. It's generally nowadays it's so much cheaper to create than it was even 5 years ago or 10 years ago to create quality video to spread your message about what you're doing. So in terms of video, I want to talk about 2 different platforms, and Victor, I'll let you talk about these if you don't mind. YouTube and Vimeo, and we're going to talk about the differences of each of those and the pros and cons of using each for your organization, because it'll vary based on your needs.
Sure. So both video broadcasting or video distribution mediums are highly effective. They have their slight nuances. So YouTube, obviously, as the slide indicates, is the second largest search engine. It's owned by Google. It's a medium that I think is most suited for a more casual conversation. So, for example, it's a great way to take a quick video, perhaps, of a parish cleanup day. Maybe there are a bunch of volunteers who are going down to a park on behalf of the parish community, doing some kind of community service. You've got a 2-minute YouTube video that you can post up there very quickly and very easily, share it readily with Facebook, Twitter, etc., and on your home parish website or home organizational website, and talk about the wonderful day that you had. And that's something that you would use to broadly build awareness, to get people talking, to create virality, create interaction and sharing. But YouTube would be something that can also be used by perhaps the CEO, a pastor, to talk about an issue taking place in the church or the organization, or just essentially provide an update. Vimeo is a little bit higher quality. It's, as the slide indicates, more for folks who are in cinematography, this is a vehicle through which you might upload, a professional 10 or 12-minute high definition video that's done either in-house or through a professional, media company, and that's something that you might use for, like, for example, a parish appeal. Perhaps it is a video presentation that's done after the homily during Mass, or for a nonprofit or a recording artist to really talk about a personal story that builds awareness for the nonprofit or the recording artist, but also invites either donors or unit sales for the product or something like that. So they're two wholly different mediums, and you should consider using video in two totally different ways, or even more different ways, to reflect the depth of your organization's needs. So some days you may need volunteers for the parish picnic. Sometimes you might need infuse some contributions for a major project you're undertaking. But those are basically the two differences for the two major video distribution channels.
Excellent. And both of those have apps for your phone. So again, if you're looking, if you don't have any budget and you're just looking to maybe create a small video for whatever you need, you can even just use your phone to create and upload to both of those services. So,
and just real quick before we kind of wrap it up here, because we're closing in at the end of the hour and getting into questions and things like that, I did just want to briefly mention analytics. We had talked about Facebook analytics and evaluating how your posts do and things like that, which is all pretty straightforward and readily available in the admin page of your Facebook page. Beyond that, Google Analytics, if you're not already using it for virtually everything on your parish or organizational website, you want to make sure that you do incorporate it. It's free. It's very easy to use. We can guide you through the whole process, and it's essentially just taking the code that you get and implementing it into each of the pages so that you can track where your hits are coming from, where your views are coming from, where your audience is coming from, and what they're looking at.
Exactly.
In virtually real time.
Yeah. So the last slide here was just real quick talking about new social media networks. I'm just 2 seconds on it because there's a couple questions that have been submitted that I think need to be addressed. Obviously, there's Instagram, Vine, Snapchat. They're coming out all the time with these new ones. The point, again, is if you're going to engage in these, is to have a plan, dedicate enough time for your due diligence to research them, which might include contacting us if you have questions or you want our opinion on, we can research your audience and all that stuff and see if that would be a best fit. And obviously research best practices for strategies in that regard. So anything on that topic, Victor, that last one?
No, I don't think so. There's a couple there that even I haven't even heard of.
I know, it's crazy. There's social media for everything. So we've had a few questions here submitted, Victor, and one I wanted to...
Yeah, I think we might have to do another whole webinar with the number of questions that we have. So if we don't get to every single question, definitely feel free to communicate with us. You can email either Ryan or myself. You know what, for the sake of making sure that we do address them all in a timely fashion while it's still fresh in your mind, make sure you put in your subject header webinar question.
Yeah.
And that way we'll say, oh, okay, that's one of the ones that we didn't get to. But basically, so I'm sorry, Ryan, so go ahead.
That's okay. Josh in Colorado, he said he had this question, and I thought it'd be perfect for you to answer. How can we use social media to raise money?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question, and it's something that every parish nonprofit needs, and you could spend quite a bit of time on it. I'll give you the succinct answer. Basically, one of the great methods that's increasing in popularity, and of course it's no secret, are the crowdfunding campaigns. So those are Kickstarter, Indiegogo, GoFundMe. There's new ones popping up every day. Basically, it's not just about establishing a crowdfunding campaign and hitting submit and then watching, like as if someone had drunk a magic potion and seeing all the dollars pour in. It's a lot more than that. What you need to do is make sure that you have a fully comprehensive campaign. You've got the 3 magic ingredients which are specificity, urgency, and viability. And so, we can tease, more through those in a one-on-one conversation or via email or things like that. But essentially, you need to be very specific about what it is you're raising money for, whether it's a capital project, whether it's a program, like a youth ministry or some other kind of a project that's long-term, short-term, or medium-term. You need to demonstrate why that is time-sensitive and important in the here and now. And then finally, you need to demonstrate how an actual contribution will make that idea or that vision that's being communicated viable. And all those things need to be done in a fully comprehensive effort through not only video, but also multiple pictures and strong text. And those are all the classic ingredients of a successful crowdfunding campaign. Little Flower Strategies, we don't take them on very often, but we have taken on a couple of crowdfunding campaigns this year, and each has met its goal. One exceeded it by 10%, and the other one has reached its goal with just 5 or 6 days to go left. So we feel very confident about our ability to quarterback something like that on behalf of you. But it's something that takes a little bit of time. So I hope that wasn't too long-winded of an answer for Josh, but be happy to talk about it more at length.
Excellent. And Amy just asked, what is a meme? So it is pronounced meme, not mem. And a meme is just a picture with big text on it or any kind of text on it. And
that's right. We were going to talk about customizing memes, but we didn't even get a chance to do that. So, I think people have all seen them on their own Facebook pages, but that's a whole other. I don't know, Ryan. Do you want to talk about maybe a Reader's Digest version of how to create an effective meme?
I mean, basically, you have to you have to find a photo editing software, and then open the picture. There's just a few best practices. You want to make sure the text is readable, make sure it's big, put your organization's logo and text on it. Use a picture that's either your own or Creative Commons, which means it's not copyright and you're free to use it. And even more, there's different kinds of Creative Commons. Some people will allow you to use their photos if you're a nonprofit, but not a for-profit. Or there are photos out there you can use if you're for-profit. And then lastly, I generally create memes that are square because it's mobile friendly, and statistics show that for millennials, for example, 70% of millennials, roughly 70% of millennials, are using their mobile device to access either almost all the time or exclusively to access social media. So you want to make sure that your photos are mobile optimized, which is square. Man, I can't believe.
I know there's a couple of dozen other more questions at least, but I just really quickly want to. This might sound like it's in poor taste, but it's very germane. I want to take a moment to plug one of our clients. It's the We Parent More app. And the reason I want to do that, and I think you'll find it is very useful, it's a free app for the user. But take a look, text parent to 27126. This will give you a good idea of basically what's next on the horizon for digital media, and this is going to be for every parish and for every nonprofit over the next couple of years. I forecast they'll have their own individual apps. It'll be very critical to use that because of the millennials accessing content via their smartphones. I want to say something in the neighborhood of 75 to 80% are accessing everything online via an app. So I'm going to repeat that. So all of the millennials, approximately 70 to 80% of them are accessing all of the online content to their smartphones via an app. And so that means if you're a parish or a nonprofit isn't app friendly in terms of the, it's not even app friendly. Essentially that's the way that it's going. Mm-hmm. But basically it's a great mechanism through which you can broadcast all your content, and it can really show that you're ahead of the curve, and it's just remarkably effective. So I just want to give a quick plug and more as a case study than a shameless plug. Encourage people to go to text the word parent to 27126 to get the free app and see what some folks are doing and how that might fit into your eventual digital media strategy down the road.
And of course, just to wrap, we're literally 30 seconds away from the hour, so just want to kind of wrap up here. If Little Flower Strategies, we're here to help your diocese, your parish, your nonprofit, your for-profit, whatever you need. We can help you. We have digital media management services. We can come and teach. We can provide courses, materials, one-on-one consulting in person or over the phone, or certainly even group classes. If you and a couple organizations or maybe a handful of parishes or a diocese wants to provide kind of a class, kind of going over what we just went over, maybe even more in depth, or working one-on-one, workshops or whatever, certainly just give us a shout, and we can provide that for you. So, Victor, anything else?
Thanks so much, everybody. No, I think that's it. I think everyone have a great afternoon. Thanks so much for your attention. Please send us additional questions. I'm sorry that we haven't even scratched the surface in the content that we, I think, plan to get through, but there's so much to to go over. So we're happy to talk more with you, and God bless you.
Bye, guys.